Hi, my name is Carl Wilson. I've been a massage therapist since 1991, and I currently am on their board of directors of WSMTA and also serve as their treasurer and pseudo webmaster. I've been practicing for a little over 30 years, and over that course of time, I've been involved in various levels of professional leadership with AMTA, both at the state chapter and at the national level. I've always seen that there's a need for therapists to be plugged into those external processes that have an effect on our profession, via whether it's state legislature, national legislature, municipalities, etc., that it's just very vital to the profession to understand what types of external forces are having impacts on our profession and making sure that we maintain a voice around those various impacts. So a number of years ago, there were a number of town halls that were held to discuss the future of the profession, and out of those were widely attended by a lot of therapists. It was like basically a crowded hall. And out of those symposiums that they called them at that time, I sprouted the idea that we needed a state-based association to work on these things. And so I approached a number of other longtime leaders in the profession about that concept and idea. And from there, the Washington State Massage Therapy Association was born. One of the proudest things that I've seen happen around a really, ugly and tragic event was our ability to step in and create guidance documents around COVID. When COVID hit, we were still a very, very small association, still, getting our name out there and that. But when COVID hit and everybody's sidelined, and that we have some really smart people in our leadership, people with master's degrees and if you have a master's degree, you know how to do research, you know how to figure things out. And so Robin Blake stepped up to the plate and really dug into the details around COVID and developed guidance docs specifically for massage therapists to help the ones that were working as essential workers at the time to be able to treat patients safely and continue work. And it was monumental. I was just blown away by how comprehensive it was. And it circulated nationwide, and we got lots and lots of praise about it. And I had people on calls that didn't even know who I was. And when they learned that I was with the WSMTA, they were therapists as well, but they started crying. They said, "Thank you so much for your organization to put together that document so that I could practice safely." So I see that as a crowning achievement of our organization. And to this day, it still is a crowning achievement. I've always viewed the WSMTA being, cooperative environment with any of the other, national organizations. And but at a state level, I believe that there's a certain amount of nimbleness that's available to us that may not be always available to an outside organization that may have other rules, regulations, charters, etc., that may dictate or hinder or take more time to authorize than what we are able to do around local issues here quickly. Many, many years ago, was employed in the banking industry and was seeing that I needed or wanted to go back to school to get higher education in business in order to realistically advance in that profession. So when I actually went back to college and started taking the undergraduate courses, the accounting and the business and all of that, that's when I kind of decided that I hate this and I do not want to be a number cruncher. And so then I just started looking at different things. It was also around that same time that I had a sports injury, and I started getting physical therapy for that sports injury. And I was really rather impressed with with that. And around that same time, a friend of mine gifted me a massage therapy session, my first ever. And it was in that session that I realized that the massage therapist was using a lot of the same techniques that the physical therapist had been using, effectively. And it just sort of tweaked my mind while I was in school, like, well, I wonder if physical therapy might be a track for me. I mean, I really found it interesting. I already was asking a lot of questions of my physical therapist, and I can't recall whether I was asking a lot of questions of my massage therapist at that time. But it really did turn on a light bulb for me to be thinking about. And so my thought process was, well, if I change my degree to go down a physical therapy track, it was already clear to me that that was going to be a lot of years of training and a lot of educational expense to possibly find out that maybe I didn't enjoy working with people like that. And so my next step to evaluate that was, well, massage therapy was a very accessible training at the time. And for me at the time, it was also financially capable. So I said, well, let's get massage therapy training in there. Then that will tell me whether I enjoy working with people in this way. And then once I have and then if that question is answered and it's a positive, I can then move forward with further training into physical therapy. That was my thought process. That was my track. And so at the end of my training with Seattle Massage School, who's a school that's no longer here, I loved the profession. And while I still had an idea that maybe I would move forward with the physical therapy, it just never really culminated. I really didn't feel that I needed to. I was effectively working with a lot of the types of clients that I had envisioned that I would be working with in a physical therapy capacity. So yeah, I've just been a massage therapist ever since. There was a period of time where there was a personal family event that created a certain amount of post-traumatic stress for me. And I decided to leave the profession practice wise, not necessarily licensure wise, and just kind of step aside and go out and do other work and take that time to deal with my post-traumatic stress, if you will, and get my headspace back to a place where I could effectively hold space for other people in a treatment setting. So then probably 2 years ago, also part of like a semi-retirement process from the corporate world, I, re-engaged, as a therapist. Just found it necessary to step aside and heal my mind, heal my soul. And in doing that, while I was out in the corporate world, I was still really, really attached to the profession. I always, when people asked me about my history, I always told them what I did, and they would always ask me questions. I mean, that's like, I could never really totally get away from it. And not that I wanted to, it's just, I just found it interesting in the course of just everyday conversations in different environments that had nothing to do with massage therapy, that when people asked me, what my background was, and I was just honest and no reason to lie and told them, it was like, they just start asking questions. And so I never really, it never really left me. I didn't really want it to. And what I love is that when the time came for me to make another pivot away from the corporate world, I had this in my pocket, something that I was still fully trained in, still very loved to do, love to do this work, and able to tap back in and within, weeks of starting back with a clinic, to have a full book of patients, consistent returning patients. I work mostly with medically necessary cases. So it really taps into my love of problem solving to figure out what has actually happened for this person in their injury, and help get them to a place where they're functioning better than before. And And it's just really fulfilling to know that you've helped people in that way. I currently, teach at one of the massage schools their business practices coursework. And what I'm learning from a lot of the students that come before me is their vision of their future. And new LMTs should always try to tap in and be aware of, regardless of their path, because they can be so different, would be the external impacts, the external processes that may have an effect on your ability to practice the way you have uniquely envisioned. And so that's going to be some of the driest subjects in the world. This is going to be the business. This is going to be legislation. This is going to be your local municipality rules and regs, county, might even be national. So they all have the potential to have an impact in their rulings and regulations on what you are doing. And I just think it's just really important to stay tuned on those things and not get blindsided. I volunteered shortly out of getting my license and became involved. I just saw, even then, 30 years ago, the amount of external forces that were having an effect on our ability to practice, to advance, to do the types of work I felt that we were capable of doing. And volunteering for me was an easy way to just step right into the thick of it, the tip of the spear of the information. Volunteering, you can come in at any level. There's just so many different low-level but important places where people can get involved and volunteer. And again, being at the tip of the spear of the information, it just increases the positive and correct information that much more when more people are involved. And again, at that tip of the spear of the information. Wow, 10 years has gone by really, really quick. It seems like just a few years ago that we were sitting down with a group of people at a massage school, drafting up the ideas of the organization, what our mission was going to be, what we were going to focus on, why we were needed, and then developing our articles of incorporation, how rules and regs, and how we're going to run or operate as a not-for-profit organization, professional association. Just seems so much like just yesterday to me, that 10 years just really does blow my mind. And so, where I see it in the future is that we are really representing all of the massage therapists. I mean, when I say representing, I mean the people are actually becoming members of the association, that they're directly tuned in and want to support our efforts. So I see our membership just really exploding. I'm excited about having conversations with those other state associations I'm really hoping that within the next, 2 to 3 years, that we're in a place where we can hire a lobbyist to represent us directly down in Olympia during legislative sessions. I feel that that's just really important, that we have that dedicated person speaking on our behalf at that legislative level. It opens up a lot of doors for us as far as representation and speaking our message.